Today we're touring Ohio's oldest hotel, the Golden Lamb, and dining at their restaurant. 2 days before Christmas in 1803, a small timber cabin, probably much like this one, opened its doors for the first time. Proprietor Jonas Seaman from New Jersey splashed out $4 for a license to operate a hotel of public entertainment on Broadway in the newly founded village of Lebanon, Ohio. It served as a hotel most notably for people traveling by stagecoach. In Ohio, stagecoach companies were formed as soon as roads were passable. This is because Lebanon, unlike Dayton, is far from a natural waterway. Stagecoach travel of any century, but particularly of the 19th century in America, was not what we've seen in movies. For instance, this stagecoach at the Henry Ford Museum, first built in the 1820s, is a Concord coach. The Concord coach features an innovative leather-strap suspension that produces a rocking motion over rough roads, easier on passengers and on the horses pulling them. This coach carries 9 passengers. The most coveted seats were in the corners. Everything about this coach suggests it's first class. In addition to the high-end upholstery, the 3 middle passengers had a backrest. But before this, the coaches were more, industrial? Charles William Jensen, in his book The Stranger in America, described the typical American stagecoach at the end of the 1700s. This is most likely the type of coach that delivered Jonas Seaman's first patrons.
Calculated to hold 12 persons who sit on benches placed across with their faces toward the horses. The front seat holds 3, one of whom is the driver. There are no doors at the sides. The passengers get in over the front wheels. The first get the seat behind the rest, the most esteemed seat because you can rest your shaken frame against the back part of the wagon. Women are generally indulged with it, and it is laughable to see them crawling to this seat. If they are to be late, they have to straddle over the men seated in front of them.
The fare was typically 5 cents a mile, and each customer was allowed 15 pounds of baggage, quote, at his own risk, end quote. The stagecoach took 8 hours to travel between Lebanon and Cincinnati, so it's easy to see how welcome a sight the Tavern was to a stagecoach passenger on long journeys. Business was good for Jonas Seaman, and in 1815 he moved his operation to a brick 2-story building at its current location and named it the Golden Lamb. In 1842, the same year Charles Dickens made his infamous American tour, he traveled the Buckeye State from Cincinnati to Columbus to Sandusky. The road was improved, and the author and his fellow travelers suffered only a 5-hour trip. In 1844, the Golden Lamb was expanded upward to a 3rd floor. In 1854, 2 more dining rooms were added to the back of the 2nd floor to accommodate the hungry travelers. The dining rooms on the 2nd floor seem to be available for private parties. The 4th floor completes the building as we see it today and was added in 1878 when the railroad needed space for workers. Train travel was faster and less expensive than the stagecoach, about 2 or 3 cents a mile depending on the class of car. The days of the stagecoach in Lebanon drew to a close. At its peak, the hotel had 50 guest rooms. In the 1920s, new ownership steered the Golden Lamb away from a hotel that offered dining to a restaurant that provided accommodations. Today, there are 17 rooms. Each room is named after a famous person who is at least rumored to have passed through Lebanon. The rooms are decorated with a mix of antique furniture and modern conveniences. 1940, the Daughters of the American Revolution marked the Golden Lamb Restaurant and Hotel as the oldest hotel in Ohio. It continues today as Ohio's oldest continually operated business. Legend has it that the inn and restaurant have played host to numerous U.S. presidents, authors, dignitaries, and celebrities. However, early records were poorly kept, so proof is lacking for many of these early visitors. I think this room illustrates the way the hotel's legends were born. The former First Lady and mother of President George W. Bush, Barbara Bush, stayed in this room when she passed through Ohio. 14 years later, when her son came to town to give a speech in front of the Golden Lamb, he was given a tour of the hotel that included the room in which his mother had once spent a night. The room now has his name on it. The first floor dining rooms are spaces that have been home to many businesses over the years before being absorbed into the Golden Lamb. In 2019, renovations removed 2 doors to give the building a more cohesive look from the street, but inside the separate spaces remain unique. In the early 21st century, the Golden Lamb returned to its culinary roots, sourcing food locally, and began raising many of the vegetables it serves to patrons on a small nearby farm. The hope is that in a few years, the restaurant will largely be sustained by the farm. My husband had the renowned shepherd's pie. I had the couscous. Both dishes were delicious. The apple butter served with these rolls was so good that I had to pick a jar up from the gift shop to bring home with me. Primary sources notwithstanding, in her 1958 history, Hetzel Spencer Phillips mixed the past with legend and the present when she wrote, "In the lobby, as people gather around an open fireplace, strangers speak to strangers, and the feeling of good comradeship persists. In the flickering candlelight, one can almost feel the presence of all the good and great men of the past and hear the swish of crinoline skirts against the fine old furniture, hear the voice of Charles Dickens echoing through the halls." If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and here are 2 other videos I think you will enjoy.